The Been There Done That podcast is brought to you by Excel Strength and Performance. Excel S&P offers online individualized programming for athletes of all levels. They've just recently come out with a new website and it's really good. So let's go check it out. The link in the description below. All right, everybody. A new month for the podcast. So that means we got a new monthly book recommendation. This one, we've got Game Changer, The Art of Sports Science, written to you by Dr. Fergus Conley and Phil White. Now, Fergus brings a really unique perspective to elite performance, and this book details that in a very, very powerful way. Now, Fergus has worked with teams in the NFL, NBA, Premier League, and the NCAA football, and also many more. So he has a diverse background that's applicable to all sports. This book is very insightful and well written. I highly recommend it. Now go in that link in the description box below for the Amazon link to purchase your copy. Hello everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of the Been There Done That podcast. This week, I was very honoured to have on board with me Matthew Jupp, the captain at East Fremantle Football Club. We journeyed through his junior career and building upon his leadership traits to now being captain at East Fremantle Football Club. I was also welcome to our podcast mascot, Poppy. She was also co-hosting with me today. You can even keep an ear out. You can listen to her asking Juppy a few questions as well. Now, enough from me, on to the podcast. All right, so we'll get started. So, Juppy, thank you for taking the time to come down and have a chat. We don't often get to sit down one-on-one too much, do we? Unless you got to tell me something or I got to fix something up, don't you?
Yeah, it's usually, Matty, we need to fix this, or you're telling me off for talking, something like that.
So beautiful. So tell me about, how you got started in the footy, because obviously it's been quite a long journey for you so far.
Yeah. I suppose if you go right back, I was born in Port Hedland and played my junior footy and lived in Port Hedland, which is basically, it's a mining town up north. Very, very hot. It's where BHP sort of ship a lot of their iron ore off to China and whatnot. So it's a transient town. There's a lot of people that come and go. And I grew up there and played a lot of footy there as a junior. And my dad was a footballer and he was my coach. And, you know, when your dad's your coach, you think you're the best player. And I sort of went through those emotions as a kid. And then I was lucky enough to move up to Perth for boarding school.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I went to Wesley when I was in year 8, and I played junior footy at South Perth. And to be honest with you, I was never really any good as a kid. I wasn't a great footballer. I didn't have a lot of talent, and I was a bit awkward in my body as well. So, but I just loved the sport. I loved the game. So I played for almost my entire teenage years. I would have played 2 games a weekend. I play on a Saturday for school and then I play on a Sunday for club. And that just actually made me such a better footballer just by playing and training and loving it. And I didn't see it as a burden because I just loved it. I didn't have a social life, but I just loved playing footy.
Yeah, so you were saying you weren't that good. So obviously playing lots of games, getting that almost that football IQ in, obviously very important for anyone really, isn't it? Get us exposed to the sport as much as you can.
Yeah, I'm probably the typical, I was just average, average athleticism, average ability, average at everything really. I wasn't I was a little bit taller than it's probably the only thing I had that was working in my favour. But I just genuinely loved the game, and by genuinely loving it, I played it a lot. I trained almost every night and I played all the time, and I always wanted to get better. And you know, as a kid, you're not thinking about getting better and working hard. You just love it, so you just do it. So by loving it and doing it, I actually became half decent. And then by the time I was 16 and 17, when it starts to get a bit serious, I was invited to my first East Fremantle, tryouts or whatever. Yeah. And again, I wasn't very good. I just scraped through, but probably because I loved it, and that was probably evident to the coaches. I remember I wasn't very good. Yeah. And then just because I've kept playing and I grew into my body a bit, and I've just gotten better and better and better as I've gotten older.
We're also joined by Poppy, the podcast sponsor, or podcast mascot.
Hello, mascot.
Little mascot. Leave him alone, Poppy.
How old's Poppy?
She is 5. No, don't jump on him. Yeah, good. Go to your bed. Oh, God, what a terror. This is what happens when you let a mum go away. All right. So when did the switch happen? Did it, like, it finally clicked, so when obviously you weren't so good, and then obviously now you're good, we have to assume you are slightly good, is to where you are now. So where did that kind of, the switch flick?
I reckon that obviously you just get better and better and better. Like, it's a gradual improvement. But the real catalyst for, I reckon, my dramatic improvement as a footballer was in Colts when, first year of Colts, when I was starting to get a bit better, but I just assumed that because I was a key position player and like a tall player that I was never going to be a good runner. Yeah. And this is that mentality, right, is the sort of a very fixed mentality. It's like, oh, you know, this is just where I am in life. That's just who I am. I'm just not a good runner. I'm just a key.
Not so open-minded.
Yeah. And I remember a coach sat me down and he just said, if you ever want to be anything, you need, like, you want to be this, you want to be that, you want to play state, you want to, play league, you want to play AFL, which was a goal at the time. You need to be a good runner. Like, you can't just accept that you're at the back of the pack with the ruckman. And it was that mindset shift. I never really thought like that. And I realized that I actually am a good runner. And now I'm one of the better runners for a key position player, because it's not because I was a bad runner because I allowed myself to be a bad runner. And it was a mindset thing. It wasn't necessarily running. It was just a catalyst for a lot of other things. Everything sort of changed for me then. I realized I was so fixed in my mindset and that I could be so much more if I just was a bit more open-minded and just trained a bit harder. So that was probably where I first got an introduction into work ethic.
So why was it that you had such a closed mindset? Was just we weren't aware of that whole situation?
Just not aware. Just no one had ever told me. You need to learn things, and no one had ever told me that I could be a good runner. And someone actually told me that, and I was like, wow, maybe I can be. And I would classify myself now as a pretty good runner, especially for my position. So
in the game of AFL football, that's the key. Be able to run, isn't it?
Yeah. Some guys think that you need to be an absolute gym junkie, you need to be heavy, but we cover so much ground. I'd rather move better than be a strong sort of athlete. I'd rather move a little bit better, especially at our sport.
Get across the field a bit more.
Yeah.
Push through. Quite important. So so from there onwards, it was just exponential growth.
Yep.
Straight up.
And there's been ups and downs. Yeah. Like I had a really good first year in seniors and played a bit of league footy, and then I had a second year was really good, and then you just had a couple down years where you just assume that you're going to get better. And, it's probably a work ethic thing. I just assumed I was going to get better, but I probably didn't put in enough work, and, ebbs and flows throughout my career. And I guess that all leads to now, in like the last couple of years, where another sort of penny has dropped in my sort of ability. And like, again, you're always learning that, I can work even harder, and I've really worked hard this pre-season. Hopefully I set myself up for a pretty good year.
Obviously, learning and growing, now taking on the leadership role. Have you had to learn that as well as that's not something that came naturally to you?
I've always considered myself a natural leader. I've always been the captain of a team, or like growing up, I was the captain of the school team, the captain of the club team, and captain of the Colts. And
okay, so captain of the Colts as well.
Yeah, I was, but you look back and like I was probably only the captain because I speak a lot, I talk a lot, I'm a loud talker. My actual leadership abilities and skills have grown as well, and I've learnt a lot from certain mentors. But I was a nothing leader for a long part of my career, an absolute nothing leader. I was obsessed by the title and not by what it actually meant and what you actually had to do. And it's actually been like a complete reversal in the last 2 to 3 years in that mindset. And I'm now realizing that I don't even care about the title anymore. It's not about, it's the complete opposite. I just want the team to get better.
Yeah.
And having that mindset, that is actually what makes you a leader. The title doesn't mean anything. It's the mindset about, putting the team before yourself. That's what makes a good leader.
So what were the kind of things that you kind of had to take on board and learn as a leader to be an effective leader?
I reckon this is what Bill probably brought to me and Griff as well. So Griff is our old captain, and these are the two things that they imposed on me. I've got a lot of strengths in certain areas, a very good interpersonal skills, and like I'm a very good communicator with my teammates, and I was really good at including everyone in conversations. I certainly wasn't hard enough on my teammates. While I may do the work myself, I didn't hold others to account, and I would let things slide, like, you know, poor standards in the gym, poor standards on the track. I would just go, oh, well, that's just the way it is. And as a leader, you are what you allow to happen. So by me allowing those things to get away with, I was as a leader. And they gave me some very strong feedback, which was hard to take at the time. But it's probably the biggest growth I've had in that space, where I'm now willing to, you know, put my nuts on the line and go, right, that's not good enough. You need to get better. And these are two guys who are like my best mates. I find that hard. I still find that very difficult, but in order to be a good leader, you have to do that. It's just simply, you have to do it.
Having, obviously you would have grown up with a few of those guys coming up from Colts and all the way up, and it's hard to kind of separate between a friendship and then teammates, isn't it? So because as much as you want them all to fall into line, there are times you're going to have to get them in line and pull them in. But again, it's all comes from a place of like a good heart.
And you deal with that as well. Like you've had to pull guys up that, you know, that you would classify them as your friends as well. You know how hard that is at times.
It's difficult, but it's got to be done.
It has to be done. It has to be done.
Because as soon as one person drops the standards, and everyone else comes, it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, exactly. It's just that constant battle of being liked versus being respected. So like forever in my career, early in my career, I wanted everyone to like me. And I thought that was leadership, that everyone liked you. But now I don't give two shoots if people like me. I don't really care if you don't like me anymore. I want you to respect me. I want you to go, wow, I respect that guy. I respect what he's trying to do, and I'm gonna follow him. And you know, and that comes with a bit of confidence. Like I've got my friendship circle, and I'm really happy with my lifestyle and who I've got in my life. I'm not out there trying to actively be liked by everyone. I just want to win, and I want people to respect me now. That was a big shift. That was a huge shift.
For me, I'm not too fussed about being liked too much. It's more about getting the job done and doing the job right. And if that's what it takes, you got to whip them in line and get everyone on the track and push the train along the track. So as soon as you've got a track that leads off to the wrong direction, then everyone goes in that direction. So
spot on. And you've definitely brought that into our footy club. You know, that ability to keep guys in line.
Kick me the ball. I'll put it away.
There's the ball.
No more. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So now obviously coming on, there's no secret at all that people know that over the last couple of years there's been a culture shift. And what kind of, obviously poor performance and this sort of stuff has brought that along. Who has come into the club to help shift that along as well, and what kind of direction have you taken it in that direction?
The three biggest people, well, even 4 or 5, there's a number of guys, but I'd probably give the 3 or 4 biggest people that have helped with that culture change. The first 2 were probably Dottie and Bill.
Yep.
So they came along, we're at our absolute rock bottom, and they just sort of, they're the 2 catalysts, they're the major ones. And then a guy who probably doesn't get enough credit for it because he came in at a really tough time, and he just got a lot of pushback because of the way we were as a group. It's probably Griff. He was our former captain.
Yep.
And he doesn't get enough credit for it, especially not amongst the group now. But I certainly know in my heart that if it wasn't for him, you know, helping me and helping our group, and Bill and Brad, there's no way our culture would have shifted. And then you got to factor in guys like yourself who've come in and like lifted our gym standards incredibly. Like we are so much bigger and stronger because of your help and like the way you drive us in the gym and on the track. You know, like we were just talking about, you don't accept poor standards. You don't accept guys talking in the gym. And while sometimes it's like, geez, mate, it's a bit harsh. But overall, it's like you're getting the desired result, and that's all that actually matters anymore.
Yeah.
You know, having fun and all that stuff, it's definitely important. But we've been losing for so long. We just need to win now. Exactly
right. You can't accept, poor standards. So it is interesting, cultures changes and stuff like that, especially. It's been this is the 3rd year now from those changes, and still relatively haven't seen as much success on the field, but it's obviously it's growing because even new players that are coming in have brought into the culture that we're trying to develop. So it is a better quality of football, and it's what we're seeing from the inside of the club anyway. We see it, but it's yet to come out in the field.
And I'm so loathed. I've done this my entire career. I've talked us up in pre-season and then we fold. I'm sick of doing it. Yeah, like I'm like, right, our actions will show it. I know in my heart and my mind, I've seen it. I've seen the change. It's unfolded in front of me. But like, I'm not going to go and tell people from the outside, oh, it's going to happen. They'll see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And our actions will say that. And our actions will reflect that, and they've reflected it this pre-season. And I'm not even hopeful. I know we will see it this year. It's going to be so evident. I can't wait for it. I'm excited. Like, I'm really excited.
Yeah,
I think really excited.
Yeah, I think it will, especially. So let's talk about. So we had obviously there've been a few inclusions this season. For we have recruiting point of view. Let's talk about those. Who did we get in?
Yeah,
where? What do they add to the team?
I guess we'll go one for one. Hey, so I'll talk about probably Josh Schoenfeld's probably been the biggest in terms of culture. He's brought just a level of work ethic and a level of running ability that is unparalleled. I would say in the WAFL comp, I don't think anyone probably runs as hard as him. Like, he's running a 6-minute 10 on a spongy deck at East Fremantle into the massive head breeze, the southerly. Yeah. That's crazy numbers for a 2K time trial. I don't reckon that would be beaten in WAFL level.
I agree as well with he obviously brings the professionalism that I have kind of experienced from a WAFL level player before as well. So he's great from that point of view.
Yeah. Then we've got Luke English, who again, he's from the Richmond Footy Club. So obviously he spent 2 years on their list when they won 2 flags. He's just like a sponge. He's soaked up all their culture and the way they train and their standards and their ethics, and he's brought a bit of that into our footy club, and you can just tell the way he trains and the way he moves. Like, he's another elite runner. He was top 3 or 4 in our run.
6:32 k.
That's quick. So that's really
top
quick.
5.
Who else? Cory Chalmers, who's played 100 games at West Perth, and he's been a part of a premiership at West Perth. So he brings some success, and he's got a good working relationship with Bill, and he works pretty hard in the gym. You'd probably attest to that. He's a hard.
He's another one, because he's also very important as well. Because, like you said, he's had success, and then bringing in people who have had that success. They're able to bring in what they know and then put that into what we have. Yeah, that's an important one.
Exactly.
Prior success.
He's
very fit as well.
He's extremely fit, and this is the thing. Like, he's a good runner. He's another good runner, and he's a vegan, and he's just ripped, mate. Like, my partner and I live with Cam Erdley, and his partner both said, like, from the sideline you can see like the definition in his face and his arms. He's just so ripped.
Yeah, it was extremely works extremely hard. So that's what happens.
Yeah. So he'll be a great addition, and underrated, I reckon. Like, he's not one that's spoken about much, but he's a senior footballer who's got a lot of talent, and he's come into a position that we don't have a lot of depth in, and he's going to be good for us. Who else? So Dill O'Reilly comes off Frio's list. So he's very strong. He's got really good ethic in the gym. I think he lifts really well. And I played with him before he got drafted, and he's matured into a man since then. So that's exciting. He lifts pretty big numbers in the gym.
He prides himself on that as well.
Does he? Yeah, okay. That's good then. Like, I remember he was doing a lot of off-season weights. Like, I'd be coming to the club, and like I don't even know if he'd signed at the point, but he was, obviously going to sign, and he's in the gym just lifting big numbers. I'm like, geez, that's good. Who else? There's 2 others. Huey Dixon, also from Freo. He's a good competitor, really good competitor. Surprised me with his level of competitiveness, and he's got some real leadership traits as well, and I don't think he even realises that yet. That's one thing that sort of shocked me. I didn't picture that him coming in. But
so what is it? In terms of what kind of leadership traits does he have?
He's really good on the track. Like, in terms of he knows the game pretty well, and he's able to voice it to guys as well. He's able to explain. He's got good IQ. I think that's a good trait of leadership. Obviously, he's got a lot of other areas he needs to develop, but if he was to develop those areas, I could definitely see him being a leader of the footy club in the future. Yeah, he's got a bit to work on, but He's got a bit of a natural ability, I reckon, in that area.
He does communicate pretty well.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Last one?
There's one more I'm going to kick myself because...
And he's not going to like it. I know who it is, but he's not going to like it.
Don't tell me.
Let you song.
He's going to hate it.
Hopefully he's not...
Marshy. Yeah, so played with Marshy before. I know what you're going to get from Marshy. Another 2 years on another list brings a little bit more experience.
Yeah.
And he's like a dynamo, mate. He's strong. Yeah, he's our best lifter, isn't he?
Very strong.
Yeah.
He's up there in both the key lifts that we do.
Yeah.
When you said you played with him beforehand, was that when he came back? Was that when you were still in seniors?
I played a Colts game with him.
Yeah.
One Colts game with him.
Yeah.
Then when he got drafted out of Colts, went to Collingwood.
Yeah.
Came back to East Fremantle. Played another year or two at East Fremantle, and then got drafted again.
Yeah.
So
what do you take for the last time you played with him to what now? Training with him, you haven't played with him as much yet. But what are kind of the key differences that you see in his game now? He looks a little fitter. Yep.
He looks a little fitter than when he got drafted last time. He definitely lifting bigger numbers.
Yep.
And
Physically.
But I don't think much has changed. I don't think much has changed with Marshy. But I just think what's actually been good to see, the feedback he's given is how much we've changed since he's gone and come back. He sort of said to me, it's like a different club. So that's some good feedback that he's given us. And I suppose when Marshy first left, he had really high standards, or he had really high demands of his teammates. And because we weren't at a level where we could accept that, he sort of was, it put him on the outside a little bit. And he's talking about this, like he was almost ostracized for working as hard as what he did, and now that work is normalized here at where we're at now. And he's like, I was doing all this before, but like guys were sort of almost laughing at me at times.
Because he was the only one.
He was the odd one out, and like that must have been really hard for him. And like I feel sorry for him, and I kind of regret not supporting him more in that period of time. But it's just where we were at.
Yeah. As a leader now, do you kind of try to keep an eye out for guys who kind of look like they're being ostracised or anything like that, or
you have to? Yeah. It's almost psychology degree in it. Like you have to play. You've got to play coach. You've got to play teammate. You've got to play captain. You've got to play mentor. There's a lot of different hats you got to put on. You've got to play like clubman. There's so many different hats you got to put on, and it is hard. It's hard with the 50 or so guys we've got on a list. But I lean on guys like you. Like I have all trust in you. Like that, I don't have to worry about keeping guys accountable in turning up to their weights. I've sort of given that to you. That's your job. Do you know what I mean? And like you got to delegate a bit because you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And like if you're seeing someone sort of slack off a little bit, you'll tell me, and then that gets on my radar. Do you know what I mean? So
it's a give and take kind of relationship, isn't it? Between especially like coaches, and then the leadership group as well. There's a bit of time. When's the time to kind of go to you? And when's the time to go to the other leaders? Yeah. Then to ask a favour, or ask someone to do something. You might need to just keep an eye on this guy or something like that as well. There's always good give and take.
Richmond's motto last year or something like a village wins a premiership, as in like it takes everyone. Like your top 5 players don't win your premiership. It takes everyone, from the S&C coach to Hannah, who does our GPS data, to Kayleen, who runs the trainers, to Noel, who's quiet pleasing everyone in the room, the property man. So it takes a village to win a flag. Like you need to trust everyone. Everyone needs to buy in and do their little bit. So
yeah, that's definitely important. So where are we going to go now? Let's go down the path of. Well, let's stay on leadership a little bit more. Is there any resources or anything like that you actually did to kind of upskill yourself in like?
I've read a few books. Yeah, I've read a few books. So I've read a really good book. It's called Captain's Class.
Okay.
This journalist he was spending a lot of time around elite teams. He was a journalist, and he spent a lot of times in like the Yankees change rooms and whatnot, and covering I think he did a bit of the Bulls coverage when Jordan when they were elite with the Jordan era, and he was obsessed with figuring out the one common denominator amongst the most successful teams, or he just wanted to figure out like why elite teams became elite teams. And I'm talking elite teams being like teams to win 3 or 4 flags in a row and be like highly successful.
Not just one.
Not just like one premiership. And anyway, he did a lot of research on and it collected a lot of data. And essentially what he found, which is what he originally didn't know, what he found was the one key factor in all of the most elite teams in all different sports across the world, across the last 100 years, the number one common denominator was the captain and the way the captain led the team. So it's a fascinating read. It's a really, really good book. And basically he lists the 7 or 8 traits of these leaders. They all are like ridiculously the same. It's crazy how in all these elite teams from different eras and different sports, their captains are almost like mirrors in terms of how they led their team and the sort of personalities they were. So it sort of goes into a bit of that, and I thought that was a really good read. It's a fascinating read. Apart from that, it's learning off people like Bill and people like Griffo, soaking it in, and just taking on feedback and advice.
Yeah, that's if you want a good one, I reckon Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership is one of the best ones. He's a former Navy SEAL, and he was high up in the chain of command, and then he ran the whole team and everything underneath, and he pretty much essentially, him and his partner Leif Babin, they wrote this book together, and they kind of outlined what they would do in the situation, like they were out in the field or doing like a
mission.
They're doing missions like that, and then how then they would relate that and what the leadership skills they used and transfer it into like a situation like in like a business situation and stuff like that. So business leaders and how you're going to manage your staff and all this sort of stuff.
I'll read that.
So when and then he had a second one. It's called the dichotomy of leadership. So they're breaking that down even more. Really interesting read. I've got the book here if you want to.
Yeah.
I actually don't have the first one back home, but the second one's here.
Look into which one? What was the first one called?
Extreme Ownership.
Where's that one? Back in Adelaide.
Back home in Adelaide. But
get your
Amazon.
Partner and bring it back. I want to read it. I'll read it.
Actually message it before she comes
back. I'll read it. Yeah, that's good. I'm just started reading a book by Simon Sinek called Start With Why. It's a book on leadership and how the greatest leaders of more business. It's a business related book, but how the greatest leaders in business basically start with the question why do I do this. So I've only just started it, but I'll give you up.
Tools of the Titans is a good one as well. That's kind of similar, like different kind of leaders in their fields in business or whatever. They essentially outline what they do to be successful. There's lots of chapters, but lots of little chapters just outlining what they do to success and all this sort of stuff. It's quite interesting.
Have you ever read You Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins?
David Goggins. I haven't read the book, but I've listened to his podcast and stuff. Dude, that guy's crazy.
His book's good.
Yeah,
his book's elite. You got to read it. It's unreal. But yeah, he's insane. You probably listen to him on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, I listened to his Joe Rogan podcast. The stories that he comes out with, man, is incredible. The resolve that guy, obviously he's tough, mentally tough, but just the amount of times he's been down, he's kept coming back.
Yeah.
He would have, many people wouldn't be able to quit. Would have quit. Yeah.
The one that resonated with me in his book, the dog's squealing. The one that resonated with me in his book, so he's just this freak. He's a freak, right?
Yeah.
And he was a freak Navy SEAL. Anyway, he had this, he lost a couple of mates in battle and he wanted to raise some money for a charity.
Yep.
So basically what he said was that he was going to run a 100-mile ultra marathon. His first ever ultra marathon. He's not a good runner. He's never been a runner in his life. He's just this jacked up Navy SEAL, right?
Yeah, big boy. Like he was just lifting weights.
He's like, I'm going to run this 100-mile ultra marathon. This specific one he wanted to run. It was called the Badwater. And he called the Badwater organizer, and the organizer says, you can't enter our event unless you've already run one or two once in the lead up.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, well, when's the event? The event's in like 2 months. And how many, lead up races can I do? She's like, there's only 2 more left. You need to do them both. And one is this Saturday. And he's literally calling them on a Wednesday. And he's gone, right, I'll do it. And he's preparing to run this 100 miles. So that's like more than 100K. That's what, 1.6 miles to a K. It's
a lot.
You do the math. And I'll keep telling the story.
Yeah.
And anyway, he's going to run this on this Saturday, right? He's never run over like probably 20, 30K in his life. Never even run a marathon. And the Friday, the night before he's about to run, one of his good war buddies, one of his good Navy SEAL buddies, basically goes, mate, I'm going to go do some lifting. Like, do you want to come and do some lifting? He's like, I've got this 100-mile race tomorrow.
160 kilometres.
160-kilometre race tomorrow.
Yeah.
And his mate goes, oh, you pussy. You know? That's a bit, you know, don't take the easy road. And so he's gone and done a powerlifting session the Friday night, jacked heavy leg weights, big squats, big deadlifts, and like you can imagine those guys they'd lift heavy. Like he's a big Navy, he was a big guy.
Yeah, they don't quit.
And then he's gone out and he's run 160, and he said by about the 40 kilometre or 50 kilometre, he could barely feel his legs. Like he was in that much pain. He'd shat himself by the 80th kilometre, and he was like convulsing. And his partner was sitting there watching him, and he finished the race, and he had to go straight to hospital after the race. Yeah, wow. And it's incredible that his mental resolve when he's like halfway through this race and he's like feel like he's about to die. His pre-game drink was a protein shake.
Yeah, it's just a protein shake. Yeah.
It's just crazy. And he had the mental resolve to go, I'm not quitting. I will not quit. I will not quit.
Yeah, and then it was all he had. Once he got home and he was not doing good things. Well, not good things was happening to his body. He was like potentially was breaking down.
He was pissing up blood.
Yeah, he was doing shitting himself, all this sort of stuff. And then was it 2 weeks later or something like that, he already planned to do a marathon with his mum and his partner at the time, I think, his wife.
In Vegas.
And then he said, I'll walk it with your mum. And then after 2 weeks, like 1 week couldn't get out of bed, then tried to walk around, like he was just, his body would have broken down. Then I'm going to walk it. And then he said he started to walk and he goes, screw it, I'm going to run.
He ran it.
What a nut.
And he ran a good time. He come second or third or fourth or something like that. He did really well.
Always like the pull-up story is a good one.
It's a good one, yeah.
He failed it twice, and then
the most
24
pull-ups in a day,
in 24 hours,
or like a certain amount in a day, yeah.
Something like.
So I actually what I took out of his book was that your body can do so much more than you think it can do, and like on a very minor scale. I'm trying to do a little bit more in my weeks before leading up to footy. Like I'm trying to do some sprints on like a Wednesday, whereas in the past I probably would have gone, I'm going to be sore on Saturday. But sort of what I've gleaned from his book is that your body can actually handle a lot more than you think it can handle. So just do it. Yeah. Just actually do it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing as well from his book is to not go out and do there was one he did 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours.
Yeah.
So like obviously Joe Blow off the couch can't go and do it, but it's like take the mental stuff that he has, like just pick yourself up. He's been bent down so many times, just like every time just keep picking yourself up. There's always something you can always get to and work to. Yeah. But like to go out and do that sort of stuff is like pretty crazy, and doing the 24-hour pull-up challenge and all that sort of stuff is good in a way, but like average, you got to work up to that, and he is a very unique case. Like I think if you took him and there was any other person, he would have broken down and not be able to do it, but just has some kind of mental capacity to keep going.
Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. It's a good read. Just read it. I'll give you the book.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. You play with anyone anyone who's been around the box in terms of the footy who have that kind of mental resolve? Know many people?
Milan, he's pretty good.
Buddha?
Oh, look, he's not on Goggins level, but in terms of at our footy club, just having that will to desire to train and just push himself, Milan's probably got the highest level at our footy club.
Yeah, I think so too. I've actually never seen anyone want to work as much as him. He's incredible.
It is, isn't it?
He doesn't accept no. Like you said, don't do this for whatever reason. Like, we might not do, let's take today's the day off. Take the day off to rest. You can't handle not doing anything.
No, he can't. He's at the club twice a day. He goes in the morning, he comes in the afternoon. He's intense.
He is very intense.
Part of you wants to go, Milan, you need to chill out and you don't want to burn yourself out. But then the more I think about it, the more I'm like, just let him go. Let him do it.
Especially while he's young.
Exactly. If he burns out, he burns out. But he's going to make himself such a good footballer because of it.
Yeah, I think the biggest one for him. What do you want? We're not playing. And she's like, no, go sit with your ball. We're not going to throw it to you. All right. Sorry about that.
Sure.
Bit of admission. All right. Milan. We got Milan.
What about you? Who do you think? Who do you think possesses that mindset of anyone that you've potentially trained?
There's some. Oh, the guy had on Tom Harvey on the podcast last week.
Yeah.
Just his heritage, lineage from just like his family's been very like they played high level hockey, Olympians. His mum was Olympian, his granddad was Olympian. He has a very championship mindset. Like he's very dedicated to his craft. Likes to take things into like how everything he comes in is always about improving his game. But then he was talking about how he would, when we go out to play, he would just shut everything out and just play.
I heard what he said. Yeah, I was listening to it.
That was one of the biggest things I've seen. I was like, the biggest thing, like you said,
stuff.
Yeah, like you said before we started, you were saying why I wanted to start. It was because I talked to so many people, and then like I would talk to him so many times in training, but I didn't know like he would have done that or anything like that. So it's just a good opportunity.
Yeah.
To sit down with the guys and learn new things about people.
100%. Yeah, it's
so yeah, he's been one of the he would have, now that obviously I know that he would be up there with someone who has some championship winning mindset. And else probably there are a few other more that work with women's sport. A few of the waist girls we've had like Alicia actually had Alicia on the second podcast, and just kind of she had a lot of battles she had to go through. She had to keep getting herself up, and she played one national hockey game, and then before she got selected in the actual team, so she played one just kind of off a win. They picked her to play in a national game, and then 3 years later they didn't pick her up in the team. After every selection, she had to wait 3 years before she actually got selected to play in the team. So she had to wait so long, and then out of every year there's a selection process for the team, and getting denied those 3 times and still being good enough, arguably still being good enough to play in that side is heartbreaking for her. And yeah, just challenging mentally as well. Like just have to keep showing up for 3 years to train
and not be selected. Yeah.
Not be selected, and then it gets hot once you get to the higher level of training in that environment, like in the state environment. It gets hard because you're not really getting challenged by the best at that level, because if she's the best, then everyone else is underneath, so there's no one really coming up to push her. If that makes sense?
Yeah, no, it completely makes sense. So what are the sports that you train? It's weightlifting, hockey, and footy?
Just hockey and footy, and then
hockey and footy. But you have trained weightlifting, haven't you?
I've done weightlifting myself.
Yeah. Keen to hear like the differences in the way we all train, like in terms of sport specific, and like who trains harder, or like who's a better athlete.
Hockey was interesting to me. Well, not so much interesting, but was an eye-opening for me, was realising how technical it is to actually have the stick and have the ball, like how you have to have hand-eye coordination and be able to manipulate that ball while travelling and being athletic. That's quite one of the biggest ones. And then they have to stop and change directions so quickly that just have to stop on a dime and be able to change it and pass. That's kind of the biggest ones. In terms of training, like the gym-wise, training doesn't change too much. Hockey doesn't require as much max strength as like a footy player does, in terms of they don't have as much physical contact.
Yeah.
Don't have to jump as high. Well, don't have to jump only 1 or 2 times a game. They jump to receive an overhead. But it's more, agility and speed for those guys are going to be successful. So as soon as you lose your speed in hockey, you're essentially done.
Really?
Footy players is the biggest difference is obviously how much you're running, and in terms of the volume of training is a lot higher.
Yeah.
And you don't and also because you have different, like in hockey, you've got the keepers and stuff like that. You have lots of separate different types of.
We're all very similar footballers, aren't we?
Yeah. The footy you train as a team more often than you would in separate. Like you might have your lines where you break up to forwards, mids and backs 15 minutes, but that's, they do that as like a session. They might go off and do a back. Their keepers are barely trained with barely train with the team unless they do like match sim and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that'd be hard being a keeper and like almost like you're in your own little team, aren't you? That'd be difficult, I reckon.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, well, I spoke to Alicia about. That's the biggest one. How because it is as a keeper and as any keeper in any sport, it's that the keeper sees everything that's coming, so they're the one who's going to have to communicate what's coming and to set the backs up and this sort of stuff. So it does make it challenging when you don't train with them a lot, and to have that, you got to have a lot of trust in your players and like that as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's
But the general rule of thumb is most sports are similar. Like most sports are very similar. Like you're all going to need base level of strength, and everything kind of revolves around that premise.
Well, how do you build hockey athletes' agility and their speed? Like, what do you do?
More agility is everything that comes without prior knowledge of what's happening. So agility is reactive based, but it's reacting without you knowing it's going to come. So game scenarios is the biggest one you're going to get agility practice from. But people say, that's not agility, but it is, because you're not being nothing, you don't know what's happening. You're going to have to react and move and do this sort of stuff like that. But then you can do lots of change of direction, which is stuff that you know you're going to have to change direction. So like little drills like the T, like you run up, side shuffle. I like to play a little bit of games and stuff with them. Like you might just stand there, you might have 3 meters either side, and you throw a cone, and then you have to side shuffle and like kind of get out of the way. And they're funny because I did that with the goalkeepers, and then the goalkeeper coach came up to me and he was like, well, we want them to get in the way of the cones, like, you know, because I want to get the ball instead of getting away from them. So it was pretty funny. I was like, oh, next time I made them adapted it, I changed it so I had different colours, and I was like, you can only grab the green cones, and I shuffled the deck a little bit and I was throwing them, and then I'll go and grab it. So I changed it a little bit like that.
That's classic.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. But yeah, so hockey, yeah. And there was also a different situation too, like you're not in the team as much, especially like with an institute sport. It's their individualised scholarship. So essentially it's a hockey squad, hockey team, but they don't train together, or they train together but don't play together. So it's a little bit harder to kind of get them in the gym as a big group and then be like, oh, we're going to work together because this is going to help us, you know, be on the field, or, you know, this was be able to communicate in a gym environment. Just creates a different level of communication with the guys, because usually when people are in the gym, it's different environments. They're not really as hard on you, like, because if someone screws a kick, you kind of let them know about it. But in the gym, it's kind of like, oh, we're benching, you can have a chat, and then what you might think about someone for being on the field, being hard, and this sort of stuff might actually be a good guy. So it's a different level of communication.
Yeah.
You build a bit more of a bond.
You actually do in the gym sessions. It's where it's funny. It's actually like it's a space where I've found like the best time to connect with a lot of the younger guys. Mm-hmm. That's when I like actually actively go and seek them out and talk to them, because it's a space where you're at training, so you're working with them, like you're working out. You're not doing it outside. You don't have to actively seek time outside of the club and the training environment. And you actually do get a space to, you know, in your rest period and between sets, you get a space where you can actually talk.
Yeah.
It's a good time to, I don't know if any of my teammates are listening, but it's a good time to talk to your teammates.
Yeah, it is.
Just the guys you don't usually talk to, just like how you going, how you lifting, how's things going.
Yeah, because you get that the component of gym, that's going to get you stronger, you're going to play better. But then there's a little bit of side, that's like a bit of culture side as well. You can get out, see each other more often, and
it's a good point.
And it's good fun. Like it's a lot less stressful in the gym. Like you don't have the pressures of a coach sitting there being like, oh, is he going to select me if I screw up? And
it's easy. Like I'd say this a little bit tongue in cheek. Training in the gym's easier than like becoming a stronger athlete. I think is an easier endeavor on the mind than becoming a better aerobic athlete. Like I would so much rather sit in the gym and lift heavy than go out and try and improve my 2 kilometer time trial, because improving your 2 kilometer time trial is like gut wrenching, really hard. So like it's like an enjoyable part of the week. Like the gym sessions are a really enjoyable part of the week. Like you're lifting heavy and like it's not as taxing aerobically. You don't feel as, I don't know, does that make sense? You're not feeling as knackered.
Yeah. Well, I hate running as well, but but yeah, running hurts because no matter how fit you are, however fit you get, it's always going to be harder because you're always going to push that level.
Yeah.
As soon as you get fit, you're going to run more. There's always going to be that level.
There's always a level.
And also because in the gym, it's a little bit easier to kind of pull the weight off and go a little bit lighter. Whereas if you're going to run, you're going to have to make that cone you don't have a choice. You're gonna have to make that cone. If you don't make that cone, people want to see and pull you up on it.
Yeah, it's I still to this day dread the 2 kilometre time trial days. For some reason I've done 100 of them, and every single time I get nervous for 3 or 4 days out. Like it's like you're just so uncomfortable the day off. Like it's a 6 minute, 7 minute run. It's over so quick, but it just consumes. It's rent free in my head. The 2 kilometre.
It's funny how that is though, because it's such like that's only just like you're saying, it's a mental barrier that is and it also means like you're nervous about it because it actually means something. Like it's important to come back and have a good impression, like as a leader as well.
Yeah.
If you come back and not so good,
you need to come. Like you need to come back. There is. And it sets you up for good pre-season as well. Like if you come back and you're running terrible, you haven't set yourself up right. Yeah,
that's a big one. I reckon as well. Yes, you're coming back stronger as well. It's got to be. It's interesting because you want to spend the off season relaxing and this sort of stuff, but pre-season is short, and you're going to everything gets packed in at once. You know, just 2 or 3 trainings a week. Try to jam everything in. You almost have to do yourself a favour if you do spend the 8 weeks, 10 weeks of off season, getting yourself stronger, because you don't have to run as much. The load isn't as high, so you can work out a little bit harder in the gym, get a little bit stronger, so you can book your other ways where you can run a little bit more, do a little bit less gym, come back more depending on what the kind of goals are from the coach.
It's a growth period. Guys that really want to get better, guys that really want to get better, that's when you can really have an impact. Like pre-season, everyone's sort of doing. You can get a lot better over pre-season, but you can set yourself ahead of the pack by doing stuff in that off season. That's when you can have a big impact on your season. I don't think that's something you don't really realize until you get a bit older. And like if you can understand that when you're younger, like if you can impart that knowledge on the guys that are first, second, third years, that how important the off season is, then they can get rapidly advanced in their career.
It's amazing. It's amazing, but also unfortunate that you don't realise your brain, obviously as a younger kid doesn't develop maturely until like 21 as a male, but it's your physical qualities kind of diminish as you mentally like, shit, I should have done this better when I was younger. Really, if I had the mindset younger,
it's a good point.
I could have been so much better. You
wish you had your maturity at a younger age. Like your body declines as your mind inclines. It's kind of like an awkward. You wish it sort of synced up so you could be the best version of yourself, couldn't you? That's true. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's just life, isn't it? Because it's a life. Yeah, it's hard because and the ones who do it, the guys who realise earlier, they're the ones that stands out. Exactly. Because exactly. And then it was the same thing like with that John and Marsh situation before. Like usually as a younger kid, you're the guy who's doing everything and has a good mindset and training often and doing this sort of stuff. You kind of looked at as the different one, especially younger. It's like Milan. It's like how we look at Milan. Yeah, exactly right. And like that's why I said just earlier, I was like, you should tell him but at the same time, he's just going for it. Like he's just going for it. Just let him go for it. If he burns out, he burns out. Like we'll cross that bridge when you come to it. Exactly. He's got to learn that himself. But he's doing a good thing, not a bad thing. Like what he's actually doing is good. Yeah. So trying to quell him is I think it's the wrong thing to do. I just think just let him go. Yeah. Let him go. Yeah. And also because it's the change of culture now, someone like him is actually good for younger kids who's like as a cult's coming up, you actually see Milan doing extra work. It might click some of those younger guys into gear as well. It's clicked me into gear. No, seriously, like this pre-season I've done a lot of work with him. He has actively made me a strong. He's improved my work ethic and he's made me a better runner. And I've been doing sprint work with him for like 2 months now. Like we'll go on Saturday mornings on off session, off day. I was like, we'll go at like 7:30, 8. Hey, and he goes, no, we're going at 6. You're a machine. And like he just gets you there. You're there at 6. You get it done. You feel better. Like you're forming better habits. And like if he can do that to the captain of the club, then he can do it to anyone. Do you know what I mean? Like. He's an asset, and like I just don't think we should quell it. I don't think you should quell that. Habits is a good one that you mentioned just before as well. Like how your habits have changed, obviously being younger. How do you think? What kind of habits have you kind of gotten yourself into doing to make you better footballer? Just in general, like there'll be so many. It's just like that's like I reckon that's the major difference. That's the major learning what's good and what's bad. Like it could honestly start at any point in the week. We'll start game day. I'll start on game day. So like now my habit is I hydrate effectively, whereas I probably didn't do that. Like I hydrate effectively with like isotonic fluids, electrolytes, and I hydrate well through the game. Little habits like I'm having some energy gels at halftime, at three-quarter time. They make even if it's a tiny difference, it all adds up.
Yeah, 1% difference adds up.
My recovery's improved out of sight. Do you know what I mean? Like my sleep, I'm not drinking as much. Like I'm a little bit older. I'm not going out as much. I'm not drinking as much on a Saturday night. That just rapidly improves. I'm getting up earlier most days. Like, you know, when I was a bit younger, I was probably getting out of bed at 7:30. I'm getting out of bed at 6:30. Do you know what I mean? And that makes a massive difference. You're going to bed earlier. Your sleep routine's better. You train harder. I do extra training now where I probably didn't do that when I was a bit younger. You never did extra sessions, but like they're really important. You actually do need to train extra as at our level.
Yeah.
Like the training we do is the bare minimum. Like you need to do the top ups.
You have to.
And just little things that you just pick up. You just pick them up as you go along. You're like, I'll add that to my game. I'll add that to my game. I can get rid of that habit.
Yeah.
Like,
has there been a trial and error in there as well? Like if you try some things and it hasn't worked out?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I used to get really sick before games.
Yeah.
Like really, I always thought it was nerves. Like I would vomit before, like literally running out to play and I'd vomit. I'd be doing the warm up and I'd vomit.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, everyone, I just get nervous.
How long was that? Was that
this is 2 years ago, but like it was a long-term thing. It was not it was like 3 or 4 year thing.
Wow.
And I didn't know why. I just assumed it was because I was nervous, right?
Yeah.
And what I didn't know, what I did do, right, I would take, so every now and then I'd have some Panadol depending on how like my body was feeling. If I was a bit sore, I'd have some Panadol. But I was always taking no-dose and salt tablets to stop cramping. Yeah. And then, so one day we had a intra-club game. Intra-club game in last 2 years ago, pre-season, 2 years ago. So obviously I'm not nervous. It's an intra-club game. Like I've played 100 of them. I wasn't nervous. Yeah. I took 2 salt tablets. Yeah. I go out, do the warm, and I'm vomiting again. And I'm like, I figured it out. The salt tablets are what is making me vomit. It's not the nerves, because
there must be some reaction.
It was a reaction to the salt tablets, whatever it was. It just wasn't sitting right in my stomach, and they made me vomit. And I never knew that because I only ever took them on game day, and I just thought it was because I was nervous. But because I trialled it in an intra-club game, I knew I wasn't nervous, so it had to be something else. It was the salt tablets.
That's crazy. Yeah, there must be some reaction in those two chemicals.
So I stopped taking salt tablets. Trial and error. Like just stopped taking them. Yeah. And now I just have a Powerade. And I drink a lot more electrolytes before the game. I have a Powerade at half time, those sort of things. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah,
it's just trial and error.
Being an athlete, you're going to have to adapt. So some people do things different to make them better and all that. So we'll get off the track of footy. What kind of hobbies you do outside of footy to kind of keep your mind at ease?
Obviously, my number one is fishing. Yeah. I love boating and fishing. That's like just, my folks have got a house up in Dongra. Yep. And I kind of refer to that as home. To me, that's like home. Yeah. Even though I've never lived there, it's like it's a holiday home. I've never actually lived there. But when I'm there, I'm just at ease. I'm at peace. Like the world just stops. And I don't know. Everyone's got a place like that.
You turn your phone off.
Yeah. I don't even look at my phone. I don't need to. I used to not get reception there, which I kind of loved. Like, it's like forced to turn it off. And I do a lot of fishing in Dongra, which I also love, spending time on the boat. I spend time with my dad, but it's like a little beach town, and it's just tranquil and it's just home. It just takes the pressure. Like you just, no matter how you're feeling in life, you just feel 10 times better. And I'm sure everyone's got somewhere like that or doing something that makes. But that's it for me. It's fishing.
That's the most important part.
And spending time with my dad and my mum and just heading away. Yeah,
family, big one. They've been a big influence on you as a person, not as much as a footy player. Yeah,
of course. Everyone's mum and dad are, and they're huge in my life. I still spend a lot of time. I work with my dad, and I still, he's almost like my best friend. So spend a lot of time together.
For work with
So my dad, he owns a construction company up in Port Hedland, where I'm from. Yep. So that's why we lived in Hedland. And I've just finished my construction management degree, and now I'm working for him. And there's the plan there that when I finish up with footy, I'll head up north and move back home to where I grew up in Port Hedland, and just, keep kicking on with the construction gigs. So
that generally, you don't usually hear many stories where they move away and then never come back. You realise once you go into the big smoke, the city, and you're like, gee, growing up, how stress-free it actually was, even though you thought it wasn't. And then you're like, I'm going to go back home because
good
it's
place
easy.
to grow up.
Yeah.
It's just like country. I reckon growing up in the country was great. You sort of a little bit more freedoms. Like you're outside. We were on motorbikes, like riding to my mate's house on motorbikes and stuff like that. And
I think the biggest learning when you come back, you don't take things for granted. Like you obviously. Oh, sorry, the other way around. So if you're from the country, you have all this freedom, and then you come into the city, and you don't really you take those things for granted. Like you don't really get to go out and do the biking and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah,
go fishing as often as you wish. And you're like, man, you kind of take that for granted. You want to go back as often as you can to kind of let it all go.
Yeah, you're spot on. So I love getting away, and I love fishing, and you try, and it's really hard in the season, but you try and fit in a fishing session on a Sunday if I can, or whenever you can get out. But it's difficult in season, so it becomes. I look at the season as it's like a grind. You just got to grind through and enjoy the grind.
I think that's important. Enjoying the grind is important because that's going to make you a better player. Because the harder it gets, the more likely you want to quit. But then you have to keep working hard. Like I said the quote before on a podcast. It's hard times create hard men. Hard men create good times. Good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. So that's our circle.
Oh wow!
Of keep going around.
Say that one more time.
So hard times create hard men. Hard men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. And it's that circle. It's like an evolution.
Good. Yeah.
So when you when things get hard, it's because you're going to grow and be a harder person because of it.
Yeah.
But then you don't want to. But then you also have to enjoy. Have good times as well, because if you work so hard, the hard times you have to enjoy. But then you can't spend too much time in the good times because it's going to make you weaker.
Exactly.
As a person. So there's that flow of that when you go through life as well.
Yeah. Well.
But then at the end.
We certainly had some hard times at the footy club.
Exactly right.
Certainly had a lot of hard times, and I'm desperate for some good times. I'm just desperate for it.
Is there anyone else you want to thank before we finish off?
No, not really. I'm just, enjoying footy, and
I think we'll see some good success this year.
Yeah. I don't want to put a ceiling on it, and I don't want to promise people anything. I just want to let our actions do the talking, because that's what we've done all pre-season. And let's just see where we go. See how it goes.
Thank you very much, Juppy, for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it, mate.
No worries, Matty. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate.